بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Respected listeners, Assalamu'alaikum Warahmatullahi Wabarakatuh. Welcome to our third session. Alhamdulillah. Um, Today we have with us Dr. Yusuf Nagdee, and mashallah, he's with us today to share some medical advice and expert opinions. Our Sharia teaches us that we seek the opinions of those who know. And in this case, especially in what we are going through in these troubling times, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove the difficulties and hardships that we are facing. In these troubling times, we turn to the expert opinions of doctors who are involved and who know what is going on. We seek their opinions, we act on their mashwara, and we follow and we abide by them. So, therefore, for tonight's session, I hope listeners, you tune in, you listen open mindedly, and follow the advices that our respected Dr. Yusuf Sahib has to say. There's a Thursday night as well, so in case in the event that I forget, I just want to make a request to everyone that they make lots of dua for the entire ummah. Another one before, in the event that I may forget, inshallah, I'll try to remember at the end again. There are some of our brothers and sisters um, locally who are sick, and they have requested me to announce for them that to make dua for them. One is our respected Muhammad Chacha Bana. Muhammad Chacha Bana, he is in hospital. He had to undergo a surgery, and so please, everyone, make dua for him. He's requested everyone. He requested especially tonight that everyone makes lots of dua for him. Allah grants him a very quick and complete recovery. So without further ado, I'll call Dr. Yusuf, and inshallah, he'll share with us some insights. And if you have any questions as the um, streaming goes on and he speaks to us, you can send in your questions both via Facebook and also the YouTube comment section. So please send your questions in as well. Inshallah, he'll try to answer them. Jazakallah. Teacher. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Wants to speak louder as well.
Assalamualaikum. First of all, Sab, thank you for having me, and Assalamualaikum to all Facebook users. No, um, we just heard that Mia Motley, our Prime Minister, is looking to quite reaching the stage 3 level as yet. So, why are we panicking? What's the big deal? Why are we implementing stage 3 measures when we are not quite there yet? There's a short and a long answer to this. The short answer is if your neighbor house neighbor's house is burning, we don't we're going to start taking measures to basically try to prevent it spreading to your house. For example, you're going to evacuate, take out your prized possessions, etc. We're not going to wait until the fire hits. That's a short answer. The long answer is that we're dealing with a unique virus that is very contagious and shows what is referred to as exponential spread. What does that mean? Now, let's say tonight, when our prime minister came on, instead of saying she had 24 cases, she said we have one death and 20 cases. What that means is that if we assume that 1 in 200 cases are likely to die from this disease, that means that 2 weeks ago we probably had 200 cases. Let me clarify that again. When we get our first death from this coronavirus COVID-19, the statistics state that there are about 200 people from this coronavirus COVID-19. The statistics state that there are about 200 people in our population who had the disease for us to get to one death. If we assume that the doubling time for this virus is anywhere between, say, let's say 2 to 7 days, which means that the virus is going to, if it affects one person today, in perhaps 3 days, it'll go to two. In another 3 days, if it was 1 in 2 days, it'll be one, it'll be two, then four, then eight, then 16, 32, 64, 128. That's what we're talking about, exponential. So if we get our first death today, 2 weeks ago we had 200 cases. If we assume the doubling time is every 3.5 days, if we were 200 cases 14 days ago, 1.5 weeks ago, we would have been at 400 cases. 1 week ago, we would have been at 800, 1600, 3200 cases. So theoretically, when we get our first death, we are potentially dealing with 3200 cases in our population. Even if we say the doubling time is 7 days, we could still be at 800. If we have 1,000 people in our population in Barbados right now that are transmitted this illness, it is going to overcome, or is going to overwhelm our healthcare system. Now, what I'm going to refer to next is the term, we're going to talk about the epidemiological curve that explains the disease over time. If we're getting, on the y-axis, we plot a graph of the number of cases against the x-axis, which is time, then initially, when we start off, we are not going to have many cases. As time goes on, we're going to get a few cases, and then we're going to get more and more and more. If this curve is too steep, it is going to overcome our healthcare system. Our healthcare system functioning optimally right now, with 200 cases will be at one death. If we become overwhelmed, 200 cases, maybe 5 deaths. And more overwhelmed, 200 cases could be 10 deaths, or 15 deaths, or 20 deaths. In other words, people who may have survived are now going to struggle because we do not have the resources to take care of these patients. So I'm sure you guys have probably heard about flattening the curve. What we want to see is not a great number of cases coming in at one time. We want to be able to see these cases over a longer period of time, not to overwhelm our healthcare system. This virus is very contagious, and one of the major challenges with the virus is that for a 2-week period, an individual may have the disease, may not show any symptoms, yet they are infective. What we refer to as disease, who can transmit, we have no idea. Taking a temperature, asking for symptoms, those things are going to be immaterial because we cannot tell. Yet these individuals will be around us. They will be in our schools, in our universities, wherever we line. It could be even in our home. If we are allowed to, if we allow the virus to spread at a rate that we cannot contain it, and we overwhelm our healthcare system, patients who could have survived are not going to be able to live. They are going to struggle. The disease is passed on by close contact with someone who has the virus and is able to pass it on via a droplet. The virus only enters the virus only enters your body through your respiratory tract. Your respiratory tract is basically your nose, your back of your throat, and into your windpipe and down into your lungs. When when the virus when
Just sit forward. Bring your chair forward, please.
Huh?
We're not allowed to get one.
All right, better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that should be.
Right. Right. So we were referring to just now as flattening the curve. If we if we are able to slow down the disease to the extent where we are able to control the amount of patients presenting to us, it means that we will be able to take care of them, get them better, and get them back into society and wait for another set to come in. These patients, when they get the illness, it's going to affect their lungs. They cannot breathe. Treatment at that stage is mainly supportive. We have to basically hydrate the patient, give them oxygen if they're struggling. This oxygen can be delivered by normal oxygen or may have to be delivered by a ventilator. I'm going to try to explain what I mean by overwhelming the healthcare system. It's not simple to say that we got a grant for millions of dollars to purchase these ventilators, which are going to assist us or assist the patients. It's not you just turn on a machine and hook an individual up to it. These ventilators, these ventilators have to be managed in a hospital ICU setting, has to be managed by special staff, has to be managed by special nurses, etc. When we overwhelm our healthcare system and we fill up our intensive care unit with patients with this virus, other patients who would need these ventilators are going to suffer as a result. So we're talking about appendix surgery, cesarean sections, etc. We're going to overwhelm our whole healthcare system. And therefore, when I first quoted that, one in potentially 200 deaths, you're going to be increasing that to one to perhaps one in 100, two in 100, three in 100, etc. And that's what's happening right now in Italy. If we look at two countries, and we have the advantage of seeing what's happening around the world with this pandemic. We have seen what's happened in China, we've seen what's happened in Italy, we've seen what's happened in Singapore. Singapore was very proactive. They took measures very early in attempting to limit the spread of the disease. What happened in Italy is multifactorial, but what happened in Italy is possibly they were a little bit, or the public were a little bit slow in reacting to the government policies. What if you look at the number of deaths in 100? If you're usually in China, for example, I think there were 5% deaths. In Italy, there were around 10% deaths of people who contracted disease. 10% of them died. That is one in every 10 individuals. In I believe in China, it's about one in five, and Singapore had much better numbers. So if we can limit the spread of the disease, we're not saying you're not going to get it. Everyone is going to get this disease. We need to slow it down. If we slow down the number of people approaching our healthcare system, we are better able to manage them. As I alluded to earlier, that curve, what we call flattening the curve. If we flatten the curve to a number that we can manage, instead of saying we get 200 in 2 weeks, perhaps we'll get 200 over a 10-week period. If we are able to flatten the curve, this epidemiological curve that I'm referring to, we will be able to better manage the patient. How do we flatten this curve? To flatten this curve, we have to limit the spread of the disease. We have to say, and the only way we can limit the spread is by decreasing the or person to person contact. This virus is going to spread from person to person by an individual who has the disease producing a droplet of the virus. This droplet could be produced in a cough or a sneeze, and they have it on their hands, and they touch an area, they touch the floor, they touch another area where someone else is going to pass soon. When you touch that and you touch your face, you are going to pick up the disease. The disease does not enter your body through your skin. Your skin, you have to inhale it or it has to come in contact with your face for you to pick up the disease. If let's take it a step back and just say, if we allow the disease to reach a point where we have thousands of cases in our population, we have already missed the boat. If we miss this boat, you what is happening in Italy? Italy is considered a gold standard in healthcare. They have one of the best healthcare systems in the world. If we if they are at 1 in 10 cases dying from the disease, although we consider ourselves first world, we are not quite first world. All right, our numbers are going to be ridiculous. This is why it is very important to follow the instructions given by individuals who know about this. If if we are advised to stay home, if we are advised not to go to social gatherings, that includes family gatherings, what we call dawats. If we are referring to our mosque prayers, masjid, if we are referring to any party, if we are going to any area where there is a mass gathering, as I alluded to earlier, you do not know who has it. You are going to increase the chance of one person passing it on to you. But we all heard disease is very mild. We have nothing to worry about. We're going to get a little cough and cold and we'll bounce back up. Only old granny may have an issue. Yes, that is probably true. But we're seeing numbers in parts of the world which could be which might raise my eyebrow when we hear that 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds with no illnesses are actually becoming very ill with the disease. So if we decide that we're going to say we're going to be callous, we're not going to listen, we're going to be stubborn, we're going to be adamant, whatever adjective you want to use. If we decide that our immune system is strong enough and that we're able to go into this public setting, we can see 5 people here and man, they look healthy to me. Let's go make a jamaat. Let's go to a party together. Let's go and lime on somewhere. What we are actually doing is increasing the chance of one of those 5 people having the disease, passing it on to another individual, and that individual taking it home. If we do this repeatedly and say and if we do it and this disease is allowed to spread into the elderly population, as I explained earlier, is going to affect everyone. Because if, as I told you, the QEH currently operates on a first come first serve basis. So if 20 old people come into the hospital and they all need a ventilator, young people who could have survived from simple things like appendix surgery, gallbladder, any little thing like that, cesarean sections, they're not going to be able to get their surgery. If also all the healthcare personnel, the doctors, the nurses, the orderlies, and everyone else is busy taking care of these patients, then other patients cannot get any care. However, if we delay it, if we are able to delay the amount of people coming in, we'll be able to, inshallah, take care of it. So, what is there to expect? Now, what we want to see is the number of cases decreasing over time. So instead of seeing 2, 4, 8, 20 going up to 40 and up to 50, we want to see 20, 21, 22, etc. We don't want to see a big jump. If we are able to get to the top of that curve and we start to go downwards, that's what we are looking for. If we get to that point, then perhaps you can peep through your window if you're in isolation. What that means is that we are not getting new cases. And that's our first goal. We don't want to get any deaths because one death means that we are already in a lot of trouble. That means that 1,000 people at least have it walking around the island not knowing. One of those thousands could be the man who you're praying next to in masjid, or the person who just wiped their face in a towel, or the person who just sat down, coughed onto their hands, and placed it on a seat, and you went and pick it up. All right, that is increasing your chances. By you limiting by you staying home, you're decreasing the chance of that happening. So when we can have, as I said earlier, 1,000 ventilators, you will still overwhelm the healthcare system. When we get to the top of that curve and we start to come downwards, that is the point where we are looking to say, Alhamdulillah, we can see the end of we can see the end of this battle. What we don't have to stay home. We don't have to stay home indefinitely. This process may take 2, perhaps 3, perhaps 4 weeks. The first thing you want to realize, the first thing you want to ensure, there are no new index cases and no deaths. And by limiting it, by limiting our person-to-person contact, that's going to help us. Once we start getting, well, as I said earlier, I expect everyone in the population will get this disease, but we want to get them slowly. The disease is currently a pandemic. If you, not a good example, but we'll talk about chikungunya, Zika virus, for example. It's not the best example, but we know about chikungunya, we know about Zika virus. When Zika first came in to Barbados, we never heard about Zika before, but it was known in other parts of the world. When Zika came here, we had a lot of cases. We can consider that at that point the disease was an epidemic. All right. However, the next year, well, no one seemed to have Zika. How is that possible? As I said, this is a different type of virus, but I'm just using the principle of it. What has happened is that our population has developed an immunity to the virus. Their immune system has is able to detect this virus at an early stage, and yeah, we can destroy it. So it will not present with an illness. When no one in Barbados had immunity to this virus, almost everyone came down with the disease. Zika doesn't kill you the way the way this COVID-19 can. When enough of the population has developed an immunity to a virus, uh, we're going to start. We get to a stage where we refer to as herd immunity. So, for example, if tomorrow I get in with me, if I have COVID-19 and I get into a minivan with 12 people, and no one in there has immunity to it, obviously no one has immunity to COVID-19 currently, I would assume. Um, I could have passed it on to 4 of the individuals who sat to the right, my left, front and back. even as I walked in, I could have passed it on to 2 or 3 other individuals. I could have coughed, left it on the seat, and another 3 or 4 individuals afterwards could have come by and picked it up. If we have herd immunity, and out of those 12 people in that minivan, let's say 6 or 7 already is immune to it. If they're immune to it, if they're immune to the virus, then the likelihood of you passing that on to someone else is low. And hence, the virus may just present with simple symptoms in one individual, and that individual may go to a doctor, he may get seen, and alhamdulillah, he'll feel better. Even if he passes on to one person, that person has the access to the healthcare, has access to ventilators, and they'll feel better. That's where we start developing herd immunity. That's where the disease goes from being an epidemic/pandemic to being endemic, which means maybe perhaps next year we'll have a couple of COVID-19 cases, but it's not going to overwhelm our healthcare system. That's where we need to go. That's where we start opening our doors and start sneaking back out. All right. Just a point again on the ventilator before I wrap up. A ventilator is a machine that breathes for you. The disease affects your respiratory system to the extent where you are unable to breathe on your own. Breathing means you have to take air into your lungs and back out. If the virus appears to cause a severe inflammatory reaction in your lungs, the tubes that connect from your windpipe downwards, at that point, and a person may not be able to breathe on their own, and they have to go on a machine. This machine doesn't operate on it by itself. It needs, as I alluded to earlier, it needs a lot of manpower, skilled manpower, which our island will not have if it is overwhelmed. As I said earlier, we cannot get help from anywhere else. It is a pandemic. We have to rely on our own at this point. It's not simple. We just hook you up to a machine and you'll miraculously recover. It is not as simple as that. As far as we're concerned right now, our goal, your goal, is to basically limit the spread. So far, the only way that we can do it is by what we are advocating right now, social distancing. I'll just discuss a little bit of social distancing and I'll wrap up, inshallah. When an individual coughs or sneezes, he's able to propel that virus. Some say 3, some say 4, some say, but let's call it 6 feet. Live on a droplet for about 3 feet. The virus is not classified as an airborne disease. The virus, airborne, let me perhaps maybe explain that a little bit better. For airborne illness, an airborne virus, for it to be considered airborne, it has to remain suspended in air for a period of time. Which means that if I'm in this room and we have an AC duct and we are pulling air, that germ is small enough to go through your duct system and can actually come back out and infect someone else who just walks into the room. He doesn't have to touch anything. What with gloves and masks and so on, but let's use a little bit of common sense here. The WHO, World Health Organization, if you go on their website, you'll see that they have only advised to use masks if you have the illness or if you're in the healthcare system. A mask has to be presented, has to be used properly. If you're going to wear a mask and and gloves, and you are going to touch your face, touch the adjust the mask, touch somewhere else, and so on, and saying you're actually doing yourself more harm. It is better you just exhibit proper hygiene and keep your hands clean as possible. You don't have to wash your hands every second, but you have to be aware of where you're touching, what you're touching, and not to touch your face. As far as gloves are concerned, gloves are protecting yourself, yes. But again, if you do not know how to use them, you're going to make a simple situation much worse. We all are, when I say gloves, when I use it in my office, I will use it on one patient. And as soon as I'm finished, I'll discard it. If I use it on another patient, it kind of defeats the purpose. So if you use your gloves and you go about the whole day, you are actually, and your gloves are touching dirty surfaces, and you don't have to wash your hand because you have on a glove, you're increasing the chances, or you're increasing the chances of you picking up more and more disease simply by wearing a glove. So in essence, you're actually doing yourself more harm. So I'm coming to the end of my talk here. Hey, Martha? Yeah. All right. So what 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 are my recommendations going forward? All right. So basically, in summary, my recommendations are: number one, stay home as much as you can. All right. Number two, keep your applaud the action taken by Prime Minister Motley, the Minister of Health, and I support their decisions thus far. If we if we follow these instructions to the best of ability, inshallah, this disease will not be as bad as it can be. This disease can be very, very bad. It is easy to look back in retrospect and say, boy, we overreacted. Why did we have to cancel prayers? Why did we have to have a social a curfew? Why are you limiting social gatherings? But I think that's just something we'll have to live with. If we look back for a retroscope and we said, you know what, this was all useless, I would say, Alhamdulillah, right? It was not as bad as it could be. Pandemics occur every 100. Pandemic was the Spanish flu. And now this pandemic is coming from a virus called the virus family called coronavirus. All right. It's a quick chat on this virus. I don't think I alluded to earlier. The coronavirus is a family of viruses. And in a case, the virus has been around with us for years. Its natural hosts are wild animals, if you want it that way. And somehow we believe it may be bats. Okay. These viruses, from the time we were hunter gatherers and came into a more civilized society, these viruses have been living with us, and we've been living with them. They've given us the common cold. We feel a little chilly, we get a little cough, but alhamdulillah, we have bounced back up from it because our body recognizes it. Over the last 20 years, uh, with a little bit of a mutation. A mutation is where it's the same family, but they look a little different. So our bodies are not able to recognize it and do not know how to deal with it. So 8 years ago and 8 years before that, let's say 2004, it was SARS. That's a coronavirus. In 2008 years, I think afterwards it was 2012. I think we had MERS, MERS, and now we are faced with COVID-19, and there will be more. How we deal with it, how we as a population, as Barbadians, deal with it. We've seen how not to deal with it, and we've seen how to deal. We have that advantage. Just Google it to see what Singapore has does and Singapore did and what Italy is doing, and we can also say what England is doing. If you are going to be proactive, inshallah, I think we will be successful if we are going to if we are going to be if we are going to if we're not going to be if we are not going to be if we do not respond for um I would say for right now, I think we can safely pray our namaz at home. That's my recommendation, but I leave that up to the committees to make that final decision. But I am in 100% agreement if it is said that we do not have a second question is, how does this virus affect persons who smoke? It's a lung condition, and therefore, if someone smokes, we can make the assumption that their lungs are not going to be as good as someone who doesn't smoke, and hence the disease will affect him much worse. Okay, so yeah, smoking is a condition where where obviously disease will be worse in that individual compared to a non-smoker. I'm seeing a question here. What's the recovery period for a person who has been diagnosed? Right. Um, the spectrum of when an individual gets the disease, they may not even know they have it. So the recovery period may be a day, 2 days, 3 days. They'll present with a runny nose, a cough, and a fever, and your body will just shrug it off, and they recover 100%. Obviously, there are certain individuals who are going to get this much worse, and in some cases, depending on the healthcare system, the individuals aiming to be a simple get over it and feel better situation, especially if you end up on a ventilator or you need to get some other form of positive of assisted ventilation. It's not going to it's going to be a long drawn out process. I got a question. I read something on Facebook regarding viral load. Mm-hmm. In regards to this virus, right? Can I explain like what that is and how? Okay, all right. What viral load? The question is, what is viral load and how does it? What's the implication for the virus? Um, the viral load is the amount of virus that individual is exposed to. So let's use another example. Let's say, for example, gastroenteritis. Um, if I everyone knows that if you eat food that is has gone off, you can get gastroenteritis. If you let's say you buy uh, a, a dessert, a cream puff pie, for example, and you leave it out overnight. Overnight, viruses are already in that cream puff pie. That's why we have to refrigerate it. Those viruses are going to start to multiply. They could start to multiply. And when we come in the morning, we just have a little top. We just took the top off that cream pie. That viral load is low. Okay? As opposed to the individual who basically yams down the whole cream pie, that person has a lot more virus to contend with, so his symptoms are likely to be worse. Does that answer your question? Does that make sense? So, in a case, for instance, a whole household has it. What would your recommendations now to? If a whole household has the coronavirus? Yeah. Well, and they're all very ill or they're all fine? That's the question. If they're all fine, we expect the whole household to get it. And they all have showing symptoms like coughing and stuff. Right. If they're all exposed and they're all coughing, right, then their viral load obviously is going to be higher. So what should they do then? Well, they've already been exposed. They're supposed to call the hotline. We are supposed to advise any patients with upper respiratory tract infection to call the hotline. Whatever else happens after that is we don't know, but that's what we recommend it to do. Mm-hmm. So then, all right, basically a machine, okay, and there are like 3 people with it, and there's not like 20 people around. Mm-hmm. And these people coughing a lot. Right. Would that cause like an increase or chances for an increase amount to like go on certain people like Absolutely correct. So if one person comes in a masjid and does not exhibit proper hygiene, he can pass it on to as much musallis that come through that door. But mind you, it only has to be one, right? You have created it, and then that person passes on to four. You have created you. It's gone out of control, and that's what we don't want. Okay, we want to be able to control the spread, and I'm telling you, the only way you can do this is proper hygiene and attention to the measures that we are currently implementing. We're not doing this for fun. This is not. I think if you could just step back and look at it, it's not only masjid guys. It's everybody else. It's cricket matches, Formula One. Nothing is happening right now. All right, and everyone is okay with it. And and you, I don't think it's very surprising that people are not understanding the gravity of the situation because it is just a click away on your smartphone. Just look around you. Look at India. Look at Italy. Look at all those countries. I am telling you guys, will have it much worse, much worse if it gets out of hand. Okay, you forget the economic backlash that we're going to get. We're going to get economic backlash, but I'm not here to talk about that. Cross that bridge when we get there, if we get there. Okay, but there will be a huge economic backlash from this. I have a question here. If someone is in quarantine and has not shown symptoms after 7 days, is it necessary for them to remain in quarantine for the final 7 days? The answer to that question is yes. Okay. 14 days, you will manifest no symptoms at all, and then start getting symptoms. And at that point, then if that person comes out, he will pass it on to other individuals. Okay. So we don't want that. So 14 days is the usual cutoff, and I think that should be good for basically it.
I got one here. If a Muslim brother or sister passes away under the present circumstances, how will the burial process work? Meaning, what's going to happen to the ghusl of the body, etc. What's the national protocol for this?
Okay. I don't think we have one yet. However, I could postulate if someone passes away from the coronavirus, there are national protocols. I can't say I've looked at them. I've not looked at them, but I can perhaps offer you some what I think may actually happen. What is happening in other parts of the world is that let's talk about Italy again. I'm sorry to bring up this Italy so often, but in Italy, they have overwhelmed their healthcare system and their mortuary system. So deaths are occurring at an alarming rate, and they cannot keep up with it. Let me give you a better example of what could happen in Barbados if it gets a little bit out of hand, and what we would actually have to do. I'll give you the Islamic perspective on it. I'll give you what, as a Muslim population, what we may be faced with if it was to happen. If you over, if we have one death from coronavirus every week, you're fine. We should be okay. I mean, you know, I'm just, I'm not sounding callous, but if you have one death, we are not going to be overwhelmed. All right. In Barbados, we have, I think, maybe wrong, perhaps 8 deaths a year, 8 deaths a day. Perhaps let's say 10. That's 10 people dying every day in Barbados. I'll try to do some math here to make a point. If 10 people die every day, and we are operating at equilibrium, and we get a death from coronavirus tomorrow, and we assume 1,000 people have this disease, or let's say that a little bit. Let me clarify that a little bit better. If the if 10% of the population of individuals who gets this disease are likely to die from it, if we use the Italy model, we could be potentially dealing with, let's say, uh, maybe 3,000 deaths in a short time frame. We cannot cremate 3,000. I'm not talking about Islamic point of view, guys. I'm just talking about a general point of view. We cannot cremate these individuals. We cannot give them a dignified burial. We cannot. The system will just be overwhelmed. to the extent where you will have to basically consider a mass burial. That is worst case scenario. Let's hope we don't get to that. Best case scenario, yes, we don't get any deaths. Realistic scenario, we do get some, but they come at a slow rate. So again, I'm referring back to my flattening the curve model. If an individual dies from coronavirus, it is likely that that individual will not be able to, I may be wrong, will not be able to get, if it is in a, it, that individual who has coronavirus may not be able to be treated like a normal death, as it is going to be assumed that the virus lives on the body and can be transmitted to the people who are performing the ghusl. There may be a situation where individuals who are going to perform the ghusl are going to be trained with um, proper wear, mask, gloves, etc., and are trained on how to perform the ghusl, so they in essence do not also get the disease. If we have time for that, that'll be, I think that is realistic. If we do not have time for it and this item becomes overwhelmed, you're going to be dealing with a situation of mass burials. If you get to that point, uh, a dignified burial can probably be perhaps organized at a later date, but let's not have to imagine that. Let's try our best to keep this disease as quiet as possible.
Um, One here.
Mhm. There's an argument that people still goes to the supermarket, so why stop them from masjid?
You want about the remedies?
Police have been saying to use lemon juice and baking soda to help fight the virus along with steaming. Is there any truth to this? All right, for the first question, is there any truth to using baking soda, lemon, Epsom salt, honey, calendula seeds? Nope. Okay. You're asking me for medical advice? Vitamin C? Nope. You cannot. You could intoxicate yourself with these things. It will not make a difference. The other question was, I think it was from Suleiman Bouvier. There's an argument that people still go. There's an argument. The question is, there's an argument that people still go to the supermarket. So why stop them from the masjid? I will not bother entertain that question. That argument is ridiculous. Next question. Yeah. I don't think I need to. I think it is ridiculous that I'm seeing lines outside supermarkets. I think it is ridiculous that you know um, we're seeing what we're seeing. I don't think people understand it, and that my intention tonight was not to scare anyone, but just to give you some facts and postulate what could actually happen. I'm not making this up, guys. It is across. Yeah, it is happening in Italy, right in front of your eyes. What measures should salespersons take while working? What measures should salespersons take while working? The Don't touch your face, keep your hands to yourself, um, and that basically what I've been advocating from earlier. They don't have to put on gloves. They don't have to put on a mask at this stage. Proper hand washing techniques, attention to basic hygiene, and try to minimalize as much person-to-person contact is the key. So don't touch, don't shake hands unnecessarily. Try to get in and get out. Do what you have to do and just press on. Um, there's nothing else specific to salespersons. I think that basically, um, yeah. Mhm.
Are there any self-tests that can be performed at home to detect the
Okay.
illness?
Are there any self-tests that can be performed at home to detect the illness? No. There's only one way we can detect this illness is by, with 100% surety, is by performing a swab and getting it tested for the virus. No one else can test for it right now. The only tests are being done currently is by government authorized personnel. Um, Private doctors are not allowed to do it. Only a certain subset of doctors in Barbados are allowed to do this. And um, testing is limited to only a certain select bunch, a group of individuals.
Listen, that's only once you're recovered, can you get it back again?
Theoretically, no. Once you get COVID-19, um, your body will develop an immune um, uh, response to it, and if it is represented again, your body will be able to see it and get rid of it. So all those people who this is the same basic principle of immunization. So all the non-immunizers, that is
Okay,
basically
yeah,
how
of
it's done.
there are different strands of it, you know.
There are different strains of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are different strains of it. But I think earlier I referred to something called herd immunity. Yes, there will be other strains. These viruses live in different populations. I'll give you a better example of what I mean. I don't think you get my point across. Affecting their respiratory system. Coronaviruses will also affect chickens, and it causes them to have a cold as well. It will also affect your, but when it affects when it gets into a cow or I think a sheep or a goat, it actually causes diarrhea. So these viruses live among all human beings, and once we are exposed to it, we are not that virus natural host. We are now attempting to become that virus natural host. And I said earlier, right now it's an epidemic. It will always be around, but then it will become endemic. Means it will become like how dengue fever is. We get a instead of getting 10,000 cases, we know at a certain time of the year we're going to get perhaps 5 cases, 6 cases. But if you notice, we had a lot of Zika, a lot of chikungunya, but nobody hears about it anymore because we have developed an immune response to the virus, and chances are, unless that virus mutates again or there's another coronavirus, then we'll have to go back to the same process.
A person that's in the symptoms of
Um, all patients who get a virus that tend to affect and give us the common cold, of which there are thousands of different strains. There's so if you have if sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Question again? It was
difference between COVID-19
right. Oh, okay,
and
yes.
symptoms.
So COVID-19 causes upper respiratory tract infection, and the symptoms are completely similar to the symptoms of a common cold. And in most individuals, it will present as a common cold. But what is happening with this disease, it seems to affect elderly patients and cause more illness to the extent where it causes a very bad immunological reaction in their lungs, and it leads to it's a disease with high morbidity, meaning it's illness and mortality. Now, influenza, the common cold, any other virus, we do get seasons for it. And in some cases, these individuals will get a cough, cold, fever, runny nose, and they bunks up. But also, believe it or not, there are certain diseases at time. We'll see a normal run. How many times have you heard it? Patient had a cough and cold. Next thing you know, they have a pneumonia. They went in hospital. They had to go be on a ventilator. Alhamdulillah, they recovered. Or in some situations, they didn't recover. So your question is yes, it presents exactly the same. It presents exactly the same as any other upper respiratory tract or lower respiratory tract infection. And that's so when you get that, we as a physician, we are not able to tell if you have coronavirus or not. The treatment for the treatment for COVID-19 is supportive. So you support the patient as that individual bounces back from the illness. So the support starts with initially, you come, you have a little runny nose, a cough. So we'll probably give you some antihistamines, maybe some Panadols, get hydrated, and take it from there. Then you'll if that individual feels better in 2 to 3 days, we'll say great, that person bulks back up and he's fine. However, some people may not bounce back in 2 days, 4 days, or 6 days, and the person says, Doc, I'm just not feeling better. I'm still coughing, I'm still producing mucus, I'm feeling lethargic, this fever is just not going anywhere. That patient is treated different. Now, if that's COVID-19, or if that is H1N1, or if that's SARS, or if that's MERS, the point is, at that point, that individual has to get tertiary treatment. tertiary level care treatment, which is in a hospital setting. So 6 months ago, that's how we would have treated that patient. Okay. Right now, because it is a pandemic, there are certain guidelines that come into play that basically we as doctors at primary care level are supposed to tell patients, listen, you have to call the hotline. You're not supposed, if you have a cough and cold, you cannot go into the public just like that. You cannot do it. It is bordering on selfishness. You have to follow certain protocols, right? You would just, there's no questions, just have to follow it. What happens if you call the hotline and you can't get through to them, etc.? Well, cross that bridge when we get there. But the question is, does it present with similar symptoms to common cold? Absolutely, it is actually the common cold, and in a couple of years, it will be the common cold because it will, as I said, it will become endemic, and it should not cause what is causing what we are experiencing right now, or the fear that we have right now with regards to this illness.
One, there's another thing that was going on. It's being said that the virus stayed in its throat or something for 4 days,
Right.
and if you gargle with salt water regularly, it will kill the virus. Is that true?
Okay, the question is if the virus survives in your throat and if you gargle with salt water, if that is true. So no, that's not true. Um, there's nothing medically proving that. Um, the virus doesn't just put up a house and live in your throat. It's actually in certain layer of the throat that, technically speaking, salt water can't get to. So you could be doing it as much as you want. You just not make any sense. If you have a cold and you take honey lemon or warm water and you feel good, well, that's great. But don't think you're doing yourself any benefit. If you're taking you know salt water gargles and you think you're feeling better, well, great, continue with it. But are you killing the virus by using salt? No, you're not. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, do you think if curfew being imposed on tomorrow Sunday, will that be effective?
Oh, okay. Um, if if the curfew will be effective is the question. Um, the prime minister and the minister of health, they're in a very difficult situation, and there are, if it's going to be effective, I'll make we pray that it is. Is there anything else we can do? I think proper adherence to the guidelines set out by by our masjid committees, by um, by our uh, minister, etc., is very important. Everyone has a role to play here. If that is implemented, and inshallah, we'll pray it works. But there we can do, and I think the curfew, inshallah, should do it. But it all depends. The virus is in very early stages here. Um, we we cannot predict how it's going to go. But will it help? I think it's a very good move. But I think time will tell.
With the curfew, does it then still mean that during the day though you should still stay home?
We should limit as much person-to-person contact as we can. All right. Now, if we have to, let's say we have to go to the supermarket. Okay, so if they're limiting 20 people inside the supermarket at one time, there's a reason for that because we're limiting contact, therefore decreasing the chance of spread. If, however, everybody put up a little tent and we all line outside, it kind of defeats the purpose because you have a lot of people in a small setting, in a small proximity. If we decide that we're going to make a jamaat of 5, you may be right. You may be right one time, 2 times. But if one then people got the disease, you now started going to infect other people. Okay, and I told you we can't tell. So um, the question was exactly the best thing to do is limit your congregation, your as much congregating as you can. If that involves not going to masjid, I think that makes sense. Remember, in a masjid setting, you in a all right. Um, there are cases in Malaysia and in Indonesia where when they did their contact tracing, it led back to an istima that was being done at that same time. All right. So, or Istima mean a congregational gathering. That at that same time, that where the outbreaks, well, where the index case first started from.
And then with that, can you explain what a symptomatic person is?
Okay. Asymptomatic means no symptom. So the patient has no symptom. So the patient has no symptom. An asymptomatic individual has the disease, can pass it on to another person, but they themselves do not manifest any symptoms at all. So the two words to learn here are asymptomatic, meaning that you can't tell if they have it, a doctor can't tell, the person don't know, their closest partner would not be able to tell, okay, if they have it. Yet they're infective, which means that they can pass it on to X, Y, or Z amount of people. All right, and that's why the disease is it has the healthcare system and panicking. All right, because of that simple little thing where we can spread it and not know that we are spreading it.
Um, Person asks, as there is shortage of PPE, how are doctors and other emergency care professionals going about protecting themselves?
PPE,
Yeah,
positive loss. Who's asking us?
protective area.
Oh, how are doctors doing it?
Yeah.
Um, for right now, it all depends on the specialty that you're currently in. If you are in a specialty where you're exposed to this as much as you can, as much as you are, um, then that person, that individual will have to take special precautions to prevent that. So I'm talking about accident emergency setting, internal medicine, those people who are dealing with these infections, otolaryngologists, ENT surgeons. These people are coming in contact with individuals who have it. They have to take their precautions. Some doctors I know have basically just closed their doors for now. A lot of doctors have closed their doors. At a more basic level, let's say from a primary care point of view, the likelihood is less. And at this point, what I cannot say for other doctors, but and I have I have tried my best to implement a social. I try to to to, to get patients who come in with in the waiting room. Number three, if they have any symptoms, advise them on what they need to do as quick as possible. And but I think it has to be tailor made for each individual because all doctors can't go home. They have to be in the front line. I think we need to get proper gear. Gear. Um, we're talking about N95 mask here. We're talking about proper set, gowns, etc. These things come at a cost. We were never prepared for this, and I think for right now, I think it has, as far as the doctors are concerned, each individual will have to basically try to figure out the best way possible, or basically try to say, listen, I think we need to cease these things unless it's absolutely required.
If a person has symptoms and the symptoms get worse, is fever a necessary symptom?
Fever is fever is a necessary symptom. Yes.
Fever is necessary.
Yeah. If the patient is not getting better, again, the hotline is really need to call.
But fever is a necessary symptom.
Fever is a necessary symptom. Yeah.
How prepared is the island and our healthcare system in dealing with this or to deal with this virus?
You have to answer that question in about in another 4 weeks or so. Currently, I think as I started off my talk, that first death will give us a good idea where we are at. All right. Um, Although we have picked up 24 cases, there are a lot more in our community, a lot more. We've only done a certain amount of testing. If you pick up 24, when you get that first death, then we're going to apply my formula I spoke about earlier. Um, and then then at that point, we'll see how good we're doing. Um, I think it's too early for us to assess how well we're doing. Our numbers are not that bad. But it's very important that we keep them at that level.
Right, last question. Guess on our estimation for how long this will probably last?
Um, I think we use that 2 week time frame now. How long this will actually last? Okay. Remember I spoke about that graph. When you get to the top of the mountain, of that graph and you start seeing less cases, less deaths, you're going to see the end of the tunnel. Right now, we don't know how high this mountain is. All right, we now starting to climb. Um, when we get to that point and we start getting individuals bouncing back up and the healthcare system is functioning optimally, at that point then we're saying, you know what, we getting somewhere. um until that we it's just too early to tell. That graph will tell you how bad we are.
So basically, we have to basically try to drag out this
We have to
climb
be
till the vaccine comes.
we well, I don't even know about a vaccine. We What we need to do, that graph should not be steep. All right, we want to make sure that that graph is as flat as possible. So remember, the y-axis on that graph, the x-axis is time, the y-axis is the number of cases. The number of cases, you don't want to see it going from 25 to 50 to 75 disease. And when we do, or if we do get that death, then it is time we don't want to get there. We definitely don't want to get there. We want these individuals to get better, and get back up to their work, their life, and get back into society as quick as we can. As I told you, and just remember that we are going to get the disease. Um, Everyone is going to get the disease. We don't want to overwhelm the healthcare system with a lot of people walking through the door with similar symptoms. That's what we don't want. Okay, because if we get to that point, we've missed the boat. All right, we're going to play catch up, and you will not be able to catch up. Your resources are limited. Italy, best one of the best healthcare systems, are completely overwhelmed. If we like to consider ourselves as first world, uh, we're not. And if we do get to that point, um, then it could become very, very scary. We're talking about mass burials, we're talking about mass cremations, we're talking about things that we don't even want to imagine.
You answered already.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. All right. Assalamualaikum. Thank you.
One question that come up is,
So, question?
a high percentage of Muslims in Barbados are salesmen. I was told that in one meeting,
I think there's another question, so
percent
that's
right? Putting at greatest risk of contracting COVID-19. The flip side should also be considered, even if a small population of salesmen are carrying COVID-19, they have potential to infect a wide diaspora of Barbados population in just one weekend.
Okay. You want me to address that one?
yeah.
Just sure. Yeah. So, all right. Yes, a salesman will cover, I think you said 80% of Barbados. Okay. Yes, a salesman will cover, I think you said 80% of Barbados. Okay.
All collective.
No, but remember, he's covering a lot of ground and he's seen a lot of people. But as I alluded to earlier, the virus cannot permeate, cannot get through your skin. All right. So if you exhibit proper hand washing, don't touch your face, something as basic and as simple as that, you cannot get a disease. Everything in Allah's hands. Obviously, I can't say that, but medically speaking, you can only get it when you touch your face or someone who has the disease coughs onto you or places a droplet. Droplet meaning the virus, wrapped up in some mucus, etc., coming out from snot, cold, whatever you mean, right? And then you touch that area, you may not be able to see it. Remember, these viruses are a million of a millimeter in size. You can't see these viruses, all right? And you touch that, and then you basically touch your nose, and then the virus gets in, and that's weird. So I'm not advocating we all go out and we do, but life, we have to balance our normal day-to-day life with the measures that we need to implement. Um, and we just can't say shut down because, as I said, the economic backlash from this is we're going to feel it. We're going to feel it in the next couple of months and so on. I'm not economist, but that's what's going to happen. Um, you have to continue life as best as you can. And so the salesman going in and meeting each person, do not shake their hands, do not limit contact between the salesman and their customers. Wash your hands, and I think that's basically it. Best thing for a salesman to do is wash your hands with soap. That's the best thing. All right. Sanitizer is a close second. All right. But again, we talk about 60% alcohol, 70% alcohol. The point is clean, keep your hands clean and don't touch your face. It cannot get through your skin. All right. So if you collect money from a customer, as soon as you're finished, you put it away, you clean your hands, you wash your hands, you sanitize your hands, and then you press on again. But bear in mind that if the virus is on the clothing or the money and wheel, then you clean your hands and touch back the steering wheel, you have picked back up the disease. All right. So because people that is so hard to follow, um, that's possibly why we are going to say, listen, just like guys, just stay home and just wait. It is very very difficult to actually wash your hands every time you deal with someone before you touch the steering wheel, before you touch your gearbox. It's gonna be very very difficult. That's it. Yeah.
Jazakallah to Dr. Yusuf Sahib, and Jazakallah to all of our doctors, healthcare work, and I have to congratulate all of them for doing that. MashaAllah, I hope that we can really adhere to that. We have to listen to their opinions, we have to listen to what they are saying now. And basically, if you read that, it says stay home. Stay home. And again, just now, our Prime Minister mentioned the same thing stay home. This should be taking place at the moment. And for those who are always asking about Jumu'ah and Salat and Masjid, etc., Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward us. We pray at home, Allah's going to give us, inshallah, the same reward. We don't have to we don't have to think that we're going to get any less. Performances that Allah has given us, the Sharia has given us, then inshallah we get the same reward. So don't worry, don't think that I'm going to get less reward if I pray Dhuhr tomorrow. Those who are over the age of 60, those who have any illnesses, if you've returned from overseas, for example, I've just returned from overseas, so basically I'm self-quarantined. You've returned from overseas, you have any illnesses, any types of little there, stay home and pray your Dhuhr Salah. We have to limit the congregation. We have to limit the amount of people coming into the masjid. And based on what's been said tonight by our Prime Minister, by hook or crook is going to have to happen. But still, the ulama and Muftiyani Kiram from all over, they've been giving us these guidelines. That we don't have to look and see that a supermarket is still open or the government is still open. Our fiqh and our Sharia explains this, that the government will have their own guidelines to follow. They have their reasons for opening and keeping the country open. They have to do it because how else will medication come in? How else food may come in? However, we have control over, that is what we need to do. And we have control over our masajid, which means at the moment, many scholars all over the world are saying, limit the numbers. Limit numbers to only a few who would probably just do i'tikaf in there, and that is it. That is what we have to do. And along with that, of them are saying the same thing. When you limit yourself and you seclude yourself, inshallah, then the possibility of getting the virus becomes less. One doctor said it very beautifully. If we go to the virus will come to us. If we stay away, inshallah, it'll stay away from us. So enjoy your time at home. There's 1 month now, less than a month now, approximately 28, 29 days for Ramadan. Now is the time that we can practice our seclusion. They say the Prophet ﷺ went into Hira, he would stay there. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam went on his i'tikaf. We can do our i'tikaf at home now. Now is the time to stay home, and for basic rules. Along with that as well, look out for your family and relatives. There are many who are going to be suffering that because, as Dr. Saab mentioned, there's going to be economic backlash. Try to help them. Open up our hearts, help each other. This is a time now that we can become better people, and that's what hopefully we can learn from this. Inshallah, we'll get out from this stronger as the stipulations go and the statistics show. The, the more we stay home and the more we stay away from each other, inshallah, the quicker, as Dr. Saab is drawing that, was talking about that graph and that line, inshallah, the quicker will be relief to all of us. Yes, I'm seeing a comment here that our community needs to start planning a fund for those who may need financial assistance. And a majority of us will have funds that can last us, for quite a few years, inshallah. Maybe even a few decades, some may have, right? Many have, mashallah, that amount that can last them for generations. Let's not be selfish, help each other, right? Many have, mashallah, that amount that can last them for generations. Let's not be selfish, help each other. And let's look out for each other. Pray a few things. Remember, today is also the night of Friday. Let's try to wake up tomorrow morning before the Fajr Salah, Tahajjud time, and pray and beseech Allah. Along with this, read our Surah Kahf, read our Surah Yasin daily. Alhamdulillah, we started a Khatmi Quran group. Every day, mashallah, we're close to getting a Khatam finished. Alhamdulillah, we finished one today as well. Um, do good works. Stay away from the Netflix and stay away from the movies and all those things. Start preparing for Ramadan as well. Allah knows best what's going to happen. Are we going to be fasting together with everybody? Or are we going to be doing it alone? Are we going to be praying Taraweeh in the masjid? Or are we going to be praying at home? Allah knows best. When that time comes, we'll know what. But let's mentally and physically prepare ourselves for Ramadan as well. Do as much istighfar as possible. And let's try to be good. May Allah Ta'ala make it easy for us. May Allah Ta'ala accept um, the words of and advices, and let us practice the words and advice of Dr. Sahib. Again, I want to applaud all of the doctors and all of those who are in the firing line. May Allah reward you guys. This is, as I said earlier, this is your jihad. You're going out there, you're going to be fighting. Um, we'll end with a short dua. Alhamdulillah, we did a Khatmi Quran today. So inshallah, we'll just do a short dua. اللهم انت الله لا اله الا انت الغني ونحن الفقراء اللهم انا نعوذ برضاك من سخطك وبعفوك من عقوبتك وبك منك جل وجهك لا نحصي ثناء عليك انت كما اثنيت على نفسك لا اله الا انت سبحانك انا كنا من الظالمين ربنا ظلمنا انفسنا وان لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الابرار اللهم انت ربي لا يغفر الذنوب الا انت. O Allah, you're the most kind, you're the most merciful. O Allah, you're the most forgiving, you're the most caring. You're Ghafir, Ghaffar, and Ghafoor. You're the one who loves to forgive. O Allah, forgive us for all our shortcomings, all the wrongs we have done. O Allah, forgive. O Allah, we acknowledge we've not been grateful servants. O Allah, we acknowledge we've committed lots of wrongs. But O Allah, we turn to you tonight on this night of Friday, and we ask you to forgive us for all of our shortcomings, all the wrongs we have done knowingly or unknowingly, in private or in the open, behind closed doors or in public. Oh Allah, those that we know that we have done wrong, those that we don't even know we've done wrong. Oh Allah, we ask you to forgive each and every one of our sins. Oh Allah, we're making promises that we're going to become better people. We're going to become better believers. We're going to become better servants. Oh Allah, please, please forgive us. Oh Allah, due to our sins, do not punish us. Oh Allah, treat us with your afwa and your maghfirat, your kindness and your love. O Allah, grant us afiyah in all of our affairs. Grant us safety, security in all of our affairs. O Allah, remove this virus from our land, from our island, and from the entire world. O Allah, O Allah, we can't. We are unable to bear this test. O Allah, we're finding it hard, O Allah. O Allah, remove this virus from our midst. O Allah, remove the virus from the entire world. O Allah, those who have passed away, those Muslim brothers and sisters who have passed away due to this, O Allah, we ask you to elevate their positions. Those who are sick, O Allah, all those who are sick throughout the world, O Allah, we ask you to remove their sicknesses, their illness, and let them get better as quick as possible. O Allah, in Barbados as well, O Allah, those who are sick, health as quick as possible. Grant them good health as quick as possible. Protect us from deaths due to these viruses. Protect us from deaths and very, very quick and complete recovery. O Allah, all those Muslim brothers and sisters who are suffering, whether it's from this virus or whether from any type of problem, O Allah, remove their sufferings. Grant ease to this ummah. Grant security and safety like this ummah. O Allah, this is the ummah of your Habib sallallahu alayhi wasallam. O Allah, show us mercy. Have mercy on us. O Allah, remove this virus from our midst. O Allah, remove this virus from our midst. O Allah, grant health and goodness to all of us. O Allah, accept this little prayer of ours. O Allah, protect all the doctors, protect all the care workers, protect all the nurses and all those who have to be out there working to protect us.